So, good evening. It's another video from the mansplainer and equally good manspreader from Sweden. And this video is about my view from my balcony. Sorry, just kidding. This video is about, gender, perhaps biological sex, if those are interchangeable to you. For some, apparently they are, or very apparently they are not. So, what's gender, and why is this topic so, fresh, newly discovered? I don't know. But I have a few, thoughts on it, and I'm happy to share my perspective. So, starting from a young age, at some point, not consciously, I don't know, but you are, exploring what you're made of and what your body is, and at some point you will perhaps meet another person of the opposite gender, and you'll realize that something is very different here, and yeah, let's talk about it. So, for me myself, I've always seen myself as he, or man or boy or guy, something along those lines. And in my mind, I've never had a doubt about it either. And I'm not sure if it's natural to have a doubt of it, or if it's something, I don't want to use the wrong word, but something that's perhaps odd. But the reason for making such a video like this is because this debate, or this topic, has been growing very fast lately, at least in my time perspective. And as of today, I'm sure this is also true in a lot of other countries, Western countries at least. Today we are, the taxpayers are actually paying for kids to have their gender changed, their sex changed, perhaps, depending on who you ask. So today, when I go to work, earn, create something of value, earn some money for myself, pay some taxes, and some of those taxes are going to, hormone therapy, and also some kind of operations. I'm not sure about the the age restrictions of the different programs, perhaps, but I think hormone therapy, I think that's something you can start with as soon as you start approaching puberty, to get the best effects. So it's a little bit about, it's a concern of mine, because not perhaps a concern in a way that I'm curious about why this is happening. So a little bit more about myself. I've always been, in a very guy or manly company. I've in school I've always been with the guys, and In later years in school, I've been, studying subjects in classes that mostly have guys. During my years from 15 to 18, we had not a single girl in my classroom. For other, perhaps some few occasions where we shared the is it called gymnastics? I'm not sure, sporty athletic subject in school. We would share it with other programs. So for myself, I've been growing and I've been developing in a very guy-like environment. And let's get down to a fundamental question. So as we're kids, we realize there's different bodies, and at some point we have to try to figure out how we came into this world ourselves. How did our parents make us? How does anyone make a baby? That's a good question. So after that question has been answered, we find out that the different bodies have different capabilities and different functionality. And somewhere along the lines of growing up, we think about also, what is this kind of humanity, this community that we are in? What is the human community? And how has it been developing over time? How will it develop into the future? And hey, we can be a part of that process. And for some people, it seems to come very naturally that you want to have a baby. Some have it very early in life, and historically, I think it's been earlier than it is today. And not without going too much into detail, I think that's mainly because we have very much more to think about and consider as of now. And we also have a lot of different new possibilities or paths to take. But anyway, the basic is we all living entities must either reproduce or create new individuals. So there's a decision to be made. Do I have compassion for? It could be compassion for my own being. It could be compassion for my family. It could be compassion for another kind of constellation, friends, another group. It could be a compassion for country. It could be compassion for religion. It could be a compassion for humanity at large. And at some point we have to realize that we are the ones creating the people of tomorrow, not only in the social sense that we are teaching and showing, telling, ordering, and so on. We also have to go through the process of giving birth, at least still today. Who knows about tomorrow? I don't know. So we can choose to partake in this activity, and some people never happens by choice or by natural selection or any other kind of perhaps disability in the subject. And myself, I when I was younger, I think most people, you know, we had too much stuff that we want to do, and I think we could do, could have, that, you know, the baby question perhaps comes, you know, further down the line. And I think about when I was 23, 25, somewhere along those years, I started thinking about, you know, my kind of choice. And I've always seen this, you know, having a baby and, you know, raising a baby in an individual person is quite an achievement. So I've always seen it as an accomplishment of some sort. And of course, it's not always an accomplishment. You can fail pretty miserably, and a lot of misery around the world is, you know, directly related to the process of raising a child, perhaps. And for myself, you know, and I think it's very natural in any kind of, you know, when you combine two things, it's good to have the things fit together. It's good to have them to complement each other as well. If you're building a company, you want people that complement each other well. You want perhaps hierarchies that complement each other well. You want communication and communication channels that complement each other well. And for having a baby, at least if you want to, you know, put time and effort into raising that baby, I think it's also good to have, if you want to give it, you know, this baby the best possible chance that you can imagine in this world, it's good to have someone to complement you. And as I said earlier in this video, you can call me a man, you can call me a he, boy or guy, or whatever you like. So in myself, I have the categorization that I am a male, and, you know, not strictly based on what my body has on it or within it, or what kind of process it has gone through to become what it is today. I'm looking for someone to complement, you know, the abilities that I have, the possibilities that I have, the you know, behaviors and reasoning that I have. Because if you want to put it on a, you know, linear scale, let's see if, so, you know, manly is here and womanly is here. If you go too far away to, you know, what I perceive as the manly side of the spectrum, you know, you're going away from that part of the spectrum. And according to my definition, it's not certain that, you know, my definition of manliness has to, you know, go the opposite way of what womanliness would be. But in my definition, and if I am looking for a complement to what I perceive as, you know, the manly thing, and as I categorize myself, I would, you know, naturally be looking for something over here. And for me, it's very natural. I don't want to get too much into, you know, the details of my perception of it, but if I go through town and in a rush hour of a day, I'm pretty certain that I will remember at least, you know, a handful of females or women that I see or meet or interact with. And more often than not, it's not so certain about the opposite. You know, sure, you notice people, and sure, I notice men, but to the quantity, I'm noticing, you know, the females a lot more. And in my perspective, definition or experience. This is not about, what I have been told. It's not about what I have read or, been formed by my environment to pick up. I think it's something very natural for me, and I don't think it's weird either. You're looking for that kind of, the compliment, and I see a lot of more interesting compliments in, the females that I notice. And well, I'm a little bit older than 23, 25 now, so this thinking, this reasoning has also developed for me, and I know about my perhaps qualities or capabilities, and I know them pretty well right now. So I also think I have a pretty good definition of what would be a good complement to my abilities and my capabilities. And so for me it's very natural, the division between man and woman, male, female, and so forth. But for the younger generation growing up as of now, I think there will be a lot of, thinking, perhaps some confusion, and perhaps some greater clarity than perhaps was had before. So I know that when you're young, the boy and girl, they're pretty similar in what they want to do and what they can do. There will be differences, but they are more similar than they will be at, say, age 50. At least that's my assumption. And the kind of schooling they get today, this subject, this topic about gender is very much involved. So they will get these perhaps opportunities, or this even instructions to think about this. And I'm not sure what the gender count is up to today, but I'm not putting any value into these kind of epithets or categories, but you have bi, about sexuality, homosexuality. I've seen pansexuality, seen gender fluid. I'm not sure if these are interchangeable or not, and I'm pretty certain that I have a list of about 10 or so more that's actually used if you search for it on the internet, perhaps. And the children today, they will have a lot of new, different possibilities and paths to explore, to choose from. If it's something that's chosen or not, I'm not sure. And it doesn't really matter what kind of sexuality or sexual preferences you have for yourself, as into keeping the human community going in some way. We can still conceive and have babies, and I'm pretty sure that you don't need a core family. I think it's secure, and it's a good structure for finding complementary qualities, and it's also pretty much or somewhat fair set of rules to go on about with. But it's not your sexuality or your sexual orientation. It doesn't limit you, in the possibility of creating new individuals. But, going back to the spectrum again, very manly here, very womanly here. I don't know, you have your own definition, I have mine. But if, my biological sex, my chromosomes and everything, they put me as a male, that would put me somewhat to this side of the scale, no matter what I do with my body and my life. And if I'm born in this setup or this biological composition, and at the same time I see myself as a woman, I would be over here, somewhat over here on the manly scale, but my self-image and my perception of myself and my behavior and my possibilities and such will tend to go this way. And the limitations, you will find them pretty soon. And this is in the news every now and then also, if I say I identify as a female, I want to go into female kind of competitions. And of course I have to compete against, female competitors. So there's a lot of new world records being broken in the female sports field, athletic or whatever you want to call it, by people that I perceive as men. And I don't care much about it because I'm not a competitor, and it's not something that I have. It's not an obstacle for me in that sense. But as you're opening up to this possibility of being born in this way and striving or perceiving yourself in this way, you're creating new possibilities, you're opening up new ways of life and everything, but you're also removing some, or perhaps not removing, but you're shrinking some possibilities. So limitations also means inherently in this subject, limitations not only physically, but limitations in how you act and how you can act. So, on a very not so fine scale, if you have the man here or a woman here, and if it's hard for you to think about it in a human sense, think about perhaps animals, because the distinction is very clear in that area. So comparing to bears, perhaps to bear males, fighting for territory, or going on about their day. If they have something, they find something, they smell something, I don't know, they find something they want. Perhaps it's the smell of a female that's ready for mating, and a few other male bears show up to the spot. There will be a conflict of interests, at least if those other bears also picked up the scent. And just playing theoretical games now. If if there also was a female bear coming into that gathering, you know, picking up the same scent for some reason, and she's also very interested in this female bear. Do you think that the female bear will be mating with the other female bear, or do you think that the male bears will be, or at least one of them at some point will be mating with the female bear? I think it's pretty obvious what will happen, and I'm not saying that this is what should happen in, you know, the human equivalent situation, but you know, taking it to the extreme, I think you can get the point that I'm trying to make. And the other way around, you know, all animal lives have different ways, different patterns of behavior. But let's say that is, because I think it's true, at least for, you know, the human and the primate branch of the tree of life, or how to put it, you know, in the primate branch, the females are, you know, birth givers, and they're also very good caretakers. You know, that's just the way I see it, and how I observe it. They have, you know, a more natural talent for it. And that doesn't mean that a man can be as good as a caretaker, but to the extreme, if we have a constellation of, you know, a group of females taking care of small individuals, and suddenly a male comes to that gathering and shows a lot of interest in the younger individuals, you know, interest in the same kind of way that the females that are caring for them do. You know, I think the females would be more relaxed if there was another female coming to the group and, you know, wanting to partake in that gathering and the activities, than if the male variant came and wanted to do the same things. And still today, this, you know, goes for human, at least here in our society in Sweden. You know, if there's a man wanting to take care of young kids and is studying for it, loves doing it, there will be people, you know, naturally raising an eyebrow, thinking, so this is a little bit different. As for some reason, this individual has motivation for this, and I'm hoping that it's not the, you know, bad kind of motivation, or the motivation that I would not tolerate. And once again, it's very natural. I do it myself, and I'm sure I will do it in the future as well. And if I have babies, I'm sure I will be even more careful about it. Yeah, let's see. I don't want to make this video too long because I'm making a lot of long videos. So I think when you think about your sexuality and your gender and everything, I think it's also good to have a, you know, long-term plan, perhaps. You know, because it will stick with you. Decisions will stick with you for your life. And I think all people that have survived the teenage years of, you know, human experience as of now, we see people like to categorize themselves differently. Like they have different clothes, different music taste, different favorites in every kind of imaginable way. And this will change throughout life. And what does it mean to be a 13-year-old to decide what kind of sexuality and sexual preferences and self-image I will have for the rest of my life? it's a very, tough question, and I'm sure it's tough for the kids today thinking about this stuff. Should I change gender? Am I the wrong gender? Is this a wrong behavior for myself? No, I'm happy I don't have those questions. And I also want to point up a little warning about, new speak, perhaps, that comes with some value or in it. So perhaps, new wordings, new sentences, way of phrasing, and the definitions that come with it. So today we have a lot of new words for, the different genders or different behaviors, preferences, and so on. And I'm just saying, know what you adapt and use. Try to know, or perhaps create at least a perception of what, taking new words for granted and their function, definition for granted as well, can be a little bit, not dangerous, but it can be a source of, even more questions. And I think we will notice this in the coming decades. There'll be a lot of discussion of what means what is the definition of what, and what can you say and not say in subjects like this. And also I think it's good to prioritize, perhaps ask yourself about the necessity of these questions. Is my top priority right now to figure out if I am male, female, transgender, homosexual, or heterosexual, or is this definition something that's very of necessity for me as an individual right now? That's a very good question, I think, because if it's not of a great necessity, why am I spending so much time thinking about it when I am not sure what I will think about it in 10 years? Because this kind of answer will also grow onto you. Your definition of yourself will solidify over time, and I don't think there's any reason that a 13-year-old today that's trying to figure out what kind of gender they have, that they will be stuck on that question in 30 years on and still ask themselves, what gender am I? Perhaps it doesn't really matter. Perhaps you don't have to put up the fence and the sign that says I'm this and I'm not this, because it's not always so important. But the people pushing these kind of movements and everything that the research and everything that goes around this topic, this subject, these questions, they invest their time and money into it. Of course they're happy if people want to get involved. Perhaps they are happy if people are touched by their concerns and their advancement or whatever. Yeah, I think I'm happy for now. Thank you for listening.